All right, let's jump right in. In the incredibly high stakes world of finance, AI is being rolled out at a dizzying speed. But how on earth do you manage the risk when the rulebook hasn't even been written yet? That's the billion-dollar question we're tackling today.
Think about it. From complex trading algorithms to the way banks talk to their clients, generative AI is being woven into the very fabric of our financial system. And this isn't some slow, cautious rollout. No, this is a full-on technological flood, and it's happening right now.
And that right there is the heart of the problem. You've got the technology sprinting ahead at full speed, while the regulations that are supposed to keep it safe are, well, they're still trying to find their running shoes. This creates this huge, dangerous gap where firms are basically operating in the wild west of AI. So, the simple truth is this: waiting around for regulators to catch up isn't just a bad idea, it's a completely failing strategy. The pace of AI development is just so much faster than the typical government regulatory cycle, you just can't afford to hit pause and wait for the official playbook to arrive.
So what's the move? It really boils down to this one powerful idea. Comply with future intent today. Instead of waiting, the smart firms are looking at the rulebooks they already have for things like risk models, vendors, and data privacy, and they're building their AI controls where they predict the new rules are going to land. It's all about playing offense instead of defense.
Okay, that sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in practice? Well, the source material gives us a fantastic starting point, a kind of first aid kit for managing AI risk right now. It's a set of minimum safeguards that any firm can and frankly should be putting in place immediately. Let's break it down. It's called Minimum Safeguards in the Absence of Regulation, or MSAR 12 for short. I know it sounds a bit formal, but just think of it as a super practical 12-point checklist that uses the risk management muscles you already have to get a handle on this brand new technology. Now, instead of going through all 12 points one by one, we can group them into four really clear pillars. First up, map and own it. You can't govern what you don't know you have, right? So you have to inventory every single AI tool and give it a clear owner. Second, test, monitor, and control. This isn't a set it and forget it kind of thing. It needs constant checks for bias, for safety, for performance drift. Third, secure and document. This means Fort Knox level data security and audit logs that can never, ever be changed. And finally, and this one is huge, train humans and plan for failure. Your people need to be in the loop, and you absolutely need a fire drill for when, not if, things go sideways. But here's the thing. Managing AI isn't just about ticking boxes on a checklist. Once you get past those immediate operational risks, there are these deeper, much more subtle dangers hiding just beneath the surface, especially when we're talking about generative AI. And this really gets to a massive problem: data reliability. I mean, these models are trained on data, but what if that data is just garbage? As you can see here, the risk level just skyrockets when you go from clean internal data to the wild west of the open internet, or even worse, stuff generated by other AIs. The only sane response is to be ruthless. You either ban that risky data or you block it from getting into your system in the first place. So at its core, AI works by basically consuming this enormous digital library of everything humanity has ever written down. Books, articles, weird corners of the internet, you name it. It's just looking for patterns in all that text. But here's the incredible twist. AI isn't just a consumer of information anymore. It's now one of the world's biggest producers of new content. It's churning out articles, reports, and code on a scale we can barely even comprehend. And that question right there uncovers a huge systemic risk. What happens when AIs start learning from the stuff that other AIs wrote? You get what's called a circular knowledge loop. It's basically an AI echo chamber, where a mistake or a falsehood can get amplified over and over until it starts to look like the truth. In finance, where one bad piece of data can spark a catastrophe, that is an exceptionally dangerous game to play. And then there's this fascinating problem called the reasoning paradox. See, we demand that AI explains its decisions to us, but the thing is, it doesn't reason like a human. It just predicts patterns. And for a bank deciding on a loan or an algorithm making a trade, an answer like, I don't know why, it just fits the pattern is, well, it's not going to fly. So this forces us to make a big shift. We have to stop demanding explainability and start demanding perfectly auditable, traceable processes instead. So facing these deep, almost philosophical challenges, how do we actually build tangible, real-world guardrails? Let's pull ourselves out of the theory and get back to the concrete controls that firms need to be putting in place today. A lot of people ask, hey, can't we just get certified with something like the new ISO standard for AI? And the short answer is no, not really. Look, that standard is a fantastic baseline. It's a great starting point. But finance is a world that demands near zero room for error. It needs incredibly specific model level validation that a general one-size-fits-all standard just can't provide. Let's be honest, a ton of the AI tools you'll use are going to come from outside vendors, which means your contracts have to be absolutely bulletproof. And there are some total non-negotiables here. You have to forbid them from training their models on your sensitive data. You need the right to test and red team their models yourself. You have to clearly spell out who pays if something goes wrong. And you have to have full audit rights, no exceptions. Governance just falls apart without clear ownership. This is where a simple tool called a Rossi model is a lifesaver. It assigns specific roles. The A, accountable, that's the business owner. The R, responsible, that's the tech team building the thing. C, consulted, that's your lawyers and compliance folks. And I, informed, that's the board and auditors. It creates crystal clear lines of responsibility. No more ambiguity. And that brings us to our final and maybe the most important section of all. With all this talk about models and controls and vendors, we can't lose sight of the most critical component in this entire system, the human being at the center of it. Here's the danger. If we get too dependent on AI, we risk our own expertise, our own critical thinking, just fading away. It's called skill atrophy. To fight that, we need specific controls. Things like rotating people between AI-assisted tasks and fully manual work, forcing humans to write down the why behind their decisions, and, of course, mandating a human sign-off for anything that's high risk or really complex. And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. The whole point of all this governance isn't just about making AI safe. The real goal, the true goal, is to build a system that enhances and, most importantly, preserves our own human judgment. Thanks for tuning in.